Jason, along with his camera and a flashlight, had heard enough whispers from the locals to fuel his curiosity. He knew the house was old, empty, and forgotten by time, but what drew him most was the mystery surrounding it. He had grown up listening to tales about the house, but now that he was an adult, he thought it was time to uncover the truth. On a cold autumn evening, he drove up the winding road leading to the house. The trees were bare, their branches clawing at the gray sky, and a dense fog lingered around the house like a protective veil. As Jason parked his car and stepped out into the chilling air, the house loomed ahead, its broken windows like hollow eyes staring down at him. With one last deep breath, he entered. The wooden floorboards creaked beneath his feet as he ventured inside. Dust filled the air and cobwebs clung to the corners of every room. The walls, once painted with bright colors, were now faded and cracked, as though the house itself had given up on life. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Jason kept moving, determined to capture every detail on camera. He walked into what seemed like the living room, a room where the fireplace was long dead and the old furniture was scattered about like forgotten relics. As Jason adjusted the lens on his camera, a cold draft swept through the room, and the air suddenly became thick, almost suffocating. He shivered but pressed on, taking pictures of the strange carvings on the walls, symbols he didn't recognize. Then, as he aimed his camera towards the staircase, he froze. A figure stood at the top, just out of the light's reach. At first, he thought it was a trick of the shadows, but when the figure moved, a chill ran down his spine. A pale woman, dressed in an old, tattered gown, stood staring down at him. Her hair was long and matted, her skin as white as the fog outside. Her eyes, though, were the most disturbing, black as coal, empty and hollow. "Who are you?" Jason asked, his voice shaky, but loud enough to be heard over the creaking house. The woman didn't respond. She merely gestured with one long, bony finger to the stairway, as if urging him to follow. Despite the terror gripping his chest, Jason's curiosity won over. He climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing through the house. As he reached the top, the woman's form seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind only an oppressive silence. But there was something else. A faint sound. A whisper, low and cold, like the wind through a graveyard. Jason's heart raced. "Who's there?" he whispered, hoping for an answer. The whisper came again, this time clearer, though the voice seemed to come from all directions. "Leave, before it's too late." Jason's flashlight flickered and then went out, plunging him into complete darkness. He fumbled for his backup flashlight, but when it finally illuminated the room, he gasped. The walls were no longer empty. The same strange symbols were now moving, shifting like they were alive. And the whispers, they were growing louder, more desperate. The woman appeared again, but this time she was not alone. Figures emerged from the walls, each one more terrifying than the last. Twisted faces with eyes sunken deep into their skulls, hands reaching out as though they wanted to pull him into the very walls themselves. Jason tried to run, but his legs felt heavy, as if something was holding him back. The whispers surrounded him now, relentless, calling his name, begging him to stay. "Please, help us." Jason turned to see the woman's face twisted in agony, her once white skin now rotting away. Her mouth opened wide, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. "You should not have come here," she hissed. Panic flooded Jason's chest, and he ran for the stairs, stumbling down them in a blind rush. The house groaned and seemed to shake as though it were alive, shifting around him. When he reached the front door, it slammed shut before he could reach it, trapping him inside. The whispers grew into screams, and just as Jason felt a cold, skeletal hand grab his shoulder, the world went black. When the townspeople arrived at the house the next morning, they found the door wide open, but Jason was gone. His camera was found on the ground, still recording, but the footage was nothing but static. The house remained as silent as ever, but the whispers, it was said, could still be heard by those who dared to walk near it. And the woman in the tattered gown? She was never seen again. But the people of the town knew. Her hunger was still there, waiting for the next curious soul to make the same mistake Jason had.